Hello, and thank you for joining me for this first video about the Hypersocial Organization, a book that Ed Moran and I, a good friend of mine from Deloitte, wrote, and which just got published by McGraw-Hill. We're going to make a set of videos to sort of describe the concepts that we put in the book. And in this first video, one of the things that I wanted to do was to sort of describe the three main blocks of content that we built the book on. And in subsequent videos we'll go deeper in each and every one of those, and then maybe we'll even go into using the principles of the Hypersocial Organization into understanding and explaining what's happening out there in the marketplace when we see current affairs happening. Okay, so the book is the first part of the book basically says that if you want to understand this current wave of innovation, which is powered by social media, social networking, social computing, whatever you want to call it, and by the way, all those things mean slightly different things, of course, you're better off understanding the human 1.0 rather than the web 2.0. And so the way we describe that is, you know, social media provided a massive platform of participation, which is what Tim O'Reilly says, that allowed the social, for which humans have been hardwired for tens of thousands of years, to come back in business and make a difference in business, both as employees as well as customers. And so what does that mean, a human 1.0? Well, human 1.0, the first thing you have to know about the human 1.0 is that we're hardwired for reciprocity, meaning that I'll scratch your back because I know you'll scratch my back at some point in the near future or in the distant future is not something that I learned from my parents. It's not something that I learned in grade school or elementary school or whatever. It's something that I'm hardwired for. It's a reflex. Reciprocity is a reflex that allowed the human race to be the only species to become hypersocial without all being brothers and sisters. Okay? Second thing is that, and we'll go deeper in some of those things. The second thing is that in a reciprocal society, you know, you will have freeloaders, and freeloaders can bring down your society by not giving back. And so as humans, we've developed this innate sense of fairness, meaning that if we think somebody else is unfair, we're willing to take a personal toll to punish them in order to make sure that in the future they become fair. There are other things, and I'll go deeper into those things moving forward, but you know, we like to look cool because it used to get us a better mate. We like power, we like status for the same reasons, and that's why leaderboards in communities, for example, work really well. It's also why they kill, leaderboards can kill communities in the long run, because we like to hoard status and power, and when that happens in communities, the newbies who cannot achieve a new level of status, you know, will just not come back. So that's the first part of the book. You know, want to understand truly what's happening. Don't focus on the tools and try to understand the difference between a wiki and a tagging system, and it doesn't really matter. It's the human who is coming back in business. Okay? The second part of the book, we looked at how companies who are successful at leveraging social media, how they're thinking differently about their business. And we found that most of them are thinking differently about their business in four ways. The first way is they stop thinking market segments, which is based on my personal individual characteristics, and they instead start focusing on tribes, which is based on my social characteristics, my social behavior vis-a-vis other people. Okay, so a good example of that is Walmart has traditionally focused on frugal moms, which is a market segment. It's not a tribe. It's actually a set of tribes. Okay, you have frugal moms who buy frugally because they have no other choice. You have frugal moms who buy frugally because they love the art of the deal, and when they find one, they can't stop talking about it. Those people like to hang out with one another, but not across different groups or tribes. The second way in which companies are thinking differently about their business is they stop focusing on information networks, and they instead start thinking about knowledge networks. Okay, so they realize that the most important buying decisions happen without anybody from their company being involved in the buying decision, and without any content from the company being involved in the buying decision. And so if you're not there in 60 to 80% of the buying decisions, why focus on information channels? The information that you're pushing to people is not going to make it anyway. Instead, try to see how you can have a seat at those knowledge networks where decisions happen. Leverage all your customers to participate in the sales process. Change your content so that people will use it as part of their recommendation. That's how they think differently about their company. Third way they think differently about their company is they become human-centric, whether it's customer-centric, employee-centric, detractor-centric, it doesn't matter, but they become human-centric to a fault, and they give up, being product-centric or company-centric, which is something that we've been trained to do. Okay, just like Fiskars, and I'll go in more detail about that in the future, but Fiskar is a billion-dollar scissor manufacturer in Northern Europe. They didn't build a community around scissors. They build a community around scrapbookers. Unfortunately, most people build communities around scissors. They think we have to have a community. It's got to be around our brands. It's got to be around our company. And guess what? Brand communities do not exist. Okay? But we'll go back on that in a minute. I mean, not in a minute, in another video. The fourth way in which they think differently is they're willing to let go of some of their fixed processes and hierarchies, and they embrace the messiness that comes with the social. They know sometimes it's not going to work, and they know sometimes mistakes will happen, but as long as it's steeped in reciprocity, it's steeped in fairness, people will forgive you, and the benefits that you're going to get from embracing all that social messiness and social beauty basically is much bigger than by trying to resist it, which by the way you can do anyway, but again we'll talk about that more in the future. So that's the second part of the book, how companies are thinking differently about the business. The third part of the book is what are they actually doing differently. And what we found is that companies who are successful at social media are actually turning every single process that they have into a social process. Okay? And turning a process into a social process is not just taking the process and slapping it on top of social media. That's not what it is. It's making sure that the process is steeped within the principles of the Human 1.0. So for example, turning the learning process, the education process into a social learning process is not just taking your current training department and social media-fying it. That's not going to make it. It's understanding that as humans, we learn as tribes. I do not have to know everything that you know. We're actually the only species where we don't all learn the same things. Okay? If you know something better than I do, or you have a better affinity to learn about a particular topic than I do, then I'm going to push information to you to make you smarter about that topic, and I'm going to continue to try to become smarter about my topic, and somebody else will become smarter about their topic. And as long as I can access the information that you have when I need it, I don't need to know everything that you know. That is, really turning a process into a social process. And in the book, we have found companies, we describe companies that have turned just about every single process into a social process, except two: finance and legal. And I don't think we'll ever find a legal process that is a social legal process, or a finance process that is a social finance process. We will find people that are social in those departments, don't take me wrong, but the processes themselves will never become social because they don't fit with one of the four ways in which companies think differently, which is stop thinking company-centric and start thinking human-centric. By default, those two processes are focused around the corporation as an entity. Okay, so I don't think we'll ever find them. So that's sort of, the three pillars around which we built the book. And, we go into all processes, we go into more detail around what the Human 1.0 does, we go into more detail about understanding the four different ways in which people are understanding, are thinking about their business. We develop in the book, we develop a hypersocial index on how to benchmark yourself against other companies within your industry and all of that. So, again, we'll look forward to seeing you in future videos, and Ed and I will hopefully do some of them together.